Hey everyone, I'm back to finish up my Austen and August videos, and I'm going to now be talking about Persuasion, and I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible because I am running out of time. So, to kind of keep this short and sweet, Persuasion was Jane Austen's last written completed novel, last published in a set with Northanger Abbey, and it is my absolute favorite of all of her books. I had this idea going into it that it was going to be depressing for some reason because it's a tale of like love lost and then re-found after so many years, but it was actually not. While I found that it was a beautifully written work, you can tell how Austen's prose and writing have developed, like this being her last book after all of the years, comparing it to like Sense and Sensibility. It really, really became really good. And I just need to stop saying really. It was a beautiful book. It's definitely, I feel like, her most romantic, even though I'm not really into like romancy books. It worked here. I loved the characters. It had a lot of, as usual, it had all of the funny like side characters and stuff like that. So, and you know, the social satire and that kind of thing. So I didn't find it depressing at all. I don't know why I had that impression that it was going to be that way. It has the beautiful letter from Wentworth at the end that I'm not even going to try to describe. Basically, just read the book for yourself. My only complaint with it is that it was slightly too short and truncated. I believe that Austen was rushing because of her failing health at the time to basically get it finished. We were going to get a little bit more into Mr. Elliot's story and that kind of thing, but whatever. I love what we got, and I give this a 5 out of 5. Okay, so the first adaptation is a BBC miniseries from 1971, and basically what I have to say about it is that it was boring. Didn't make much of an impression on me aside from the terrible costuming and hairstyles. It was definitely more of a 1970s look with like big beehive hairdos, and then Anne is in this terrible like bright green plaid dress. God awful. Those were the only things that are really memorable about it. Although it is a miniseries, so it has a longer, run time, it still changed and altered quite a few things from the book, which I thought were very odd. I thought Captain Wentworth in it was good, but Anne Elliot herself, played by someone also named Anne Furbank, she was about 10 years or more too old. She looked about 40, and she was really beautiful, but didn't act the part very well either. She seemed to be kind of just complacent throughout the whole thing. No real emotions shown, and just very dull. The best thing about it was the actress who played Elizabeth Elliot. I felt that she really embodied the role of the cold, haughty, proud Elizabeth from the book, something which the other adaptations haven't really done. Even my favorite one totally butchered her character. But other than that, the only standout things in this for me were, the bad things, because on a large part, it was just dull as dishwater. It's not the worst thing ever. It's faithful for the most part, but I only give it a 3 out of 5. It's not noteworthy for me. So the next version that I have is the 1995 movie. I think this was actually a made-for-TV film in the UK, but it did get a limited theatrical release in the US. That's what I've read. I didn't actually see it at the time. This version stars Amanda Root as Anne Elliot and Kieran Hines as Captain Wentworth. I just have to say, this is my favorite Persuasion adaptation, favorite Austen adaptation, and just one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just that good. I love it so much. I love the writing, the directing, the cast, for the most part, was excellent. I love it. Had a very realistic, kind of gritty feel to it, similar to 2005's Pride and Prejudice, where, hair and all that kind of stuff got messy. People didn't wear makeup, and it didn't use artificial lighting. So I always love movies that have that look of realism to them. There is one big historical error I have to note in this. The sailors in this are almost always wearing their naval uniforms, which looks great. Kieran Hines really wears the uniform well. But that is a historical inaccuracy, because if you read Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, it's noted in there that the officers cannot wear their uniforms. The uniforms can't be shown to people unless the officers are on duty. And Jane Austen knew that because her brother was in the Navy. So that's a fun fact for you. And I just have to kind of shove that thought aside when I watched this because they look so good in their uniforms. A couple of the actors were slightly too old for the part, but they all played their roles brilliantly. Amanda Root was so good at showing how Anne in the beginning was worn out. She had lost her bloom, and really, she so well was able to subtly show how Anne got her bloom back through regaining her confidence in the story. And it wasn't anything over the top, no big makeover, but you could see it in the way she carried herself, in her face, and she kind of dressed up better, but it was nothing in your face. I loved that. And Kieran Hines was a brilliant Wentworth. He's not conventionally good looking, but he had a ruggedly handsome, and you could buy that he had been a sailor, and they had excellent chemistry together. Almost all of the actors in this were brilliant. The only performance that really bugs me is Elizabeth Elliot, played by Phoebe Nichols. The actress was good with what she was given to do, but they totally changed Elizabeth from the book, who's supposed to be a proud ice queen type character, snob. In this, she was just rude, loud, over the top, and I know they were trying to show what a bad person Elizabeth is, but they took it too far, and that kind of bothered me. It wasn't true to the character from the... Another thing that bothered me was they changed Mr. Elliot's backstory and his motivations. I'm not going to spoil it. You can read my blog to read all about it, or watch the movie yourself. But his motives were changed so that they really didn't make sense. And if you read my blog, you'll understand why. But whatever. I still give this movie a 5 out of 5. It's just brilliant, and I think that everybody should watch it. Okay, so now on to the last Persuasion adaptation, and it is the 2007 ITV version, starring Sally Hawkins as Anne Elliot and Rupert Penry Jones as Captain Wentworth. Almost forgot their names for a second. Persuasion is my favorite Jane Austen book, so I was really, really looking forward to this one. I'm always happy to see another fresh take on the story, to see, what's going to be different, what am I going to like better, possibly than the old one, even my favorite, 1995. I really wanted to see this. Then I saw it and I just didn't really like it at all. I would actually rank this in my top 5, worst Austen adaptations. I think it's that bad. I'm sorry. I know it does have a decent sized fan base, but I just really don't like it at all. Basically, I liked the music and the cinematography in it, and a couple of the acting for the side characters were good. Lady Russell was good, Mr. Elliot was good. That's about it that I can remember. Everything else, the other performances, the writing, the direction, no, just no. I feel like it ruined the book for me. It was just bad. It's too short, that's true, and it was very rushed, but not so much the fact that it was rushed what bothered me, but they butchered so much from the book, and they put in a lot of bizarre scenes too. Read my blog post, because I go very much into detail about all of the specific problems that I had with it. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. Sally Hawkins as Anne, I don't know what they're doing. They gave her this horrible, disgusting, greased back hair, and it wasn't like it was trying to be historically accurate or anything, because none of the other characters had greasy hair. I first thought it was to show that, later on, after she got her bloom back, she would wash her hair, but she didn't until the very ending scene, so kind of confused about that, why they were going for that gross, back look. Rupert Penry Jones as Wentworth, I think he's a wonderful actor, but he really wasn't given anything to do in this. He barely said any lines. He didn't really have Wentworth's personality from the book, and he has this beautiful, unblemished baby face. It's there's no way I could buy that he had been at sea for the past 8 years. It looks like he hasn't even, stepped out of doors for 8 minutes, let alone 8 years. A lot of the side characters were not good, especially Amanda Hale as Mary Musgrove was god-awful. She played the character like she has some real mental problems, instead of, just Mary's hypochondria from the book. She looked like she had real severe mental problems, almost like she was special, if you know what I mean. Mentally handicapped is what the impression that I got from it. That's one of the worst acting performances I've ever seen of anything in my life. So yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of the individual terrible scenes in it, for example, the ending scene. the Bath Marathon is what a lot of Janeites and haters on this film, including myself, refer to it as. I would, if you really want to know more, definitely read my blog post, because I go in detail ripping this movie to shreds. Or watch it yourself. I mean, it's not the worst movie in the world. It's not really good, but it's a terrible adaptation of Persuasion. Yeah, I give this a 2 out of 5. I'm going to stop myself now. I'm just going to say, read my blog review on this. It was written a couple of years ago, but my feelings remain the same. This movie is just bad. It was such a disappointment. Yay, so that wraps up my Austen and August videos. Once I get a certain DVD in the mail, I'm going to do another review on, it's going to include the Indian Sense and Sensibility, or I Have Found It, Bride and Prejudice, and Clueless, and Aisha, and From Prada to Nada, so basically all of the modernized Jane Austen versions. So yay, I'll see you guys next time.